Hello everyone, I have a Victober update for you today. This is sort of a catch-all, including discussing the books that I have read already in regards to Victober, and then the books that I am currently reading. So I just wanted to go through these with you and sort of tell you my thoughts on the two books that I have read, and then talk about the books I am currently reading when it comes to Victober. So I'm just going to dive in, and I'm going to start with the books that I finished. I kind of cheated and I started reading for Victober early because nothing else that I was reading was really holding my attention, and I was really excited to get started, so I figured, why the heck not? I'm just going to start reading Victorian literature. And also, I feel like I was justified in starting a little early because I was gone over the course of this weekend and I didn't get a chance to read much. I was visiting my parents, and so I feel like starting early meant I got the extra days that I kind of missed being gone over this weekend when I didn't really have a chance to read. So, with that being said, and I'm sorry if my voice is all messed up, I was eating dinner before I filmed this video and was drinking some iced tea and apparently choked on it, and now I'm like all hacky and stuff. Anyway, we're going to jump into the books that I have already read for Victober, even if I did read them a little early. The first one of those is Aurora, Leigh by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and this is a poem. It's an epic poem that comprises a novel, and it is told in blank verse, and it follows two characters. The first one is Aurora Leigh herself, and the novel is from her point of view, or the epic poem is from her point of view. And then the other person that this book follows is Marian Earl, and she is this abused, self-taught child of itinerant parents, and her and Aurora Leigh's lives sort of intertwine in this novel. And the epic poem in here is written in 9 different books. So you have book 1, book 2, book 3, book 4. The first, what does it say? Books 1 through 5, Aurora narrates her childhood. And then in books 6 through 9, it's like caught up to the present time, or caught up, yeah. And so in books 6 through 9, then Aurora is telling the story through diary form. And so it's a novel that tells sort of the story of Aurora Leigh being a very like independent woman, and she's also a writer, and she is wanting to make a living with her writing. And then there is her cousin Romney Leigh, and at one point in time he wants to marry Aurora, and she says no. She turns him down. And then later Aurora finds out that he is engaged to marry the Marian Earl character in this novel. Like I said, the abused and neglected woman from the parents that were itinerant. And then he ends up ditching, again, Marian because of Lady Waldemar, who is the society beauty, and she is bound and determined that she is going to be with Romney. And so anyway, there's sort of a love triangle going on, kind of, sort of, not really, but those are really the characters that are really the focus of the novel. And then also, in one of the books, Aurora talks about writing and what it means to be a woman writer during this time period, and how she's also developing her ideas on various concepts and ideas and figures such as God and the woman question and society. So there's a lot going on in this book, and like I said, it's all told through this epic poem in blank verse. There are 9 books in here. I feel like I need to reread this again, not anytime soon, but at some point, to really pick up on everything that's going on. This was the first time I've read this book, and it's also the first time I've read anything by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So I feel like reading this again, I would really pick up on more of like the social commentary and various issues of that nature. Anyway, I really enjoyed this though, and I would highly recommend it if you haven't read this novel, or if you haven't read anything by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I actually think this was a really good place to start. And I'm not usually one to enjoy reading epic poetry, but this was really easy to follow, and I really enjoyed my experience. So yeah, this was definitely a good start to Victober. And then the second book that I finished for Victober is a children's book, and this is a book that I wanted to reread, not just because it fits in with being Victorian literature, but also because I was pretty sure my mom had read me a version of this when I was a child, and I wanted to see if this was the story that I remembered, and I didn't remember much about it, but it definitely is the story, and that is The Little Lame Prince by Dinah Miller Craick, and so here's the end papers in this book. Anyway, so The Little Lame Prince is the story of Prince Dolor, I guess, is how you say that name. This was first published in 1875, and so we follow this character of Prince Dolor from his, like, when he's first born, and through his baptism then, he is being carried by a nurse, and she stumbles. And during this baptism, it's not implicitly stated, but during her fall, he is hurt, Prince Dolor, and from this, he is unable to use his legs. He's paralyzed from the waist down, essentially. So, because he is paralyzed, his uncle, okay, so because he's paralyzed, you know, he's sort of looked down upon. Both of his parents die, and then he is sent off to a tower in a wasteland by his uncle, because his uncle wants to rule the kingdom that had originally gone to Prince Dolor after his parents' death, right? And so then this fairy godmother shows up, and she gives Prince Dolor this magic cloak, and he can use this cloak then to fly or like float up in the air, and he can go on various adventures. And as he goes on all of these adventures, he starts to develop great wisdom and empathy in the process. And when he's in this tower, he is also guarded by, or taken care of by, a woman who had committed a crime, and her punishment was to be in this tower isolated from everyone and to take care of this child that she didn't have any attachment to. And at first she wasn't really happy about it, but then she becomes kind of attached to him. And so eventually, towards the end of the story, this is probably a spoiler, so I apologize, but eventually towards the end of the story, Prince Dolor does get his kingdom back from his uncle and becomes the ruler, and he rules for many years, and then finally he's tired of ruling, so he gets on his magic cloak and he leaves. And he says, you know, you're in good hands. I have done what I need to do. I'm gone. And so that's basically the gist of the story in a nutshell. It's only about 100 and some odd pages, 125-ish, I think. And so, you know, it's not very long. I enjoyed this for what it was. It was a children's story. Really, the only thing I remembered about it from when I was a kid, when I think my mom read me, like I said, some version of it, was the prince. he was lame, he couldn't use his legs, and then the cloak. I didn't remember, like, that he was exiled to that tower, or why, or what happened, any of that sort of thing. I just had this image in my head of this little boy on this flying cloak, right? And then the name of the book, The Little Lame Prince. So, yeah, it was interesting to read this. I'm not going to say it was my favorite thing ever, but it was sort of me wanting to go back and figure out what the story was about that I'd heard in my childhood at some point. And so, yeah, not a bad read. I think I gave this maybe 3 or 4 stars on Goodreads. I'm not sure. But I do like this edition of it. I got it at a library book sale. And I know I showed this on my old books video, but it's worth showing again. I haven't tried to peel off the sticker here, the dot that was telling them the price, because I'm worried I'm going to, like, ruin the book if I do that. I wish they wouldn't do that at library book sales. But with COVID, who knows if we'll ever have another library book sale. So, Okay, anyway. So, those are the 2 books that I have finished for Victober. I'm currently reading 3 other books for Victober. The first of those is for the challenge of reading a book from your favorite author that you've been meaning to get to for a while, or whatever that challenge was. And that is Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens. And I'm getting ready to start chapter 5. And so this is Dickens' great satire on poverty and imprisonment. And it's the story of Arthur Clennam, a man whose kindly interest in Amy Dorrit, who is his mother's seamstress, assures him nothing but trouble. So I just met Arthur Clennam, so the story is sort of starting to take off. But yeah, I've been excited to read this novel for quite some time now, because I'm trying to read all of Dickens' novels anyway. I've read a lot of his short stories, but I want to get through all of his novels as well. And so this one will check another one off my list. And I'm enjoying being back in the world with Dickens, essentially. His writing style and his characters and everything are just so pleasing to me. So along similar lines then, I got a nonfiction book about Dickens that was published, I believe, this year. Let me see. Yeah, in 2020. And so I decided to read this as part of Victober, even though it's not written in Victober. It's about a Victorian writer, and I was already going to read another nonfiction book about Dickens, which I still hope to do, but we shall see if that happens or not. But I started reading this one because I got it in the mail, and that is The Mystery of Charles Dickens by A.N. Wilson. A.N. Wilson is the same guy who wrote the book The Victorians, which is a nonfiction book that talks about everything Victorian. I started reading that a couple years ago for Victober, and never finished it. I need to go back and start reading that again. I don't know, I don't think it was the right time for me to read that book, because I just felt like it was kind of dry in places. So maybe going back and reading it would be better. It's way up there. It's up at the top over here. You can't even see it. It's not in the video. But anyway, because it's a thick book. Anyway, so this is The Mystery of Charles Dickens, and I've been really enjoying this so far. It's essentially this book essentially looks back on the legendary writer's death to recall the key events in his life. So it starts with, like I said, with Dickens' death, and then it goes back and illustrates the key events in his life. There's also a lot of commentary on his books as well. Like, Little Dorrit has been mentioned a ton. It's almost like the author knows I'm reading these two in tandem or something. So, yeah, I've read other biographies of Dickens. I read Peter Ackroyd's biography of Dickens, which is massive. I think it's probably about that thick. And I really enjoyed that. But this offers some new insights that biography didn't have. And so it's interesting to read this and see, the parallels between Dickens' characters and his own life. Because as A.N. Wilson says in this book, and I don't think I'm going to say it very eloquently, but A.N. Wilson says that, Dickens sort of kept a lot of things about his life private from everyone who knew him. and he wasn't very nice to his wife. That's for sure. And so it's weird because he manages to hide all of this stuff by basically making it public through his books. His characters do and have similar issues that he has, and he makes these all public and yet manages to hide his issues. Like, he had a mistress, and I don't really think anyone in his private life really knew about that. So anyway, this has just been fascinating so far. I'm on the mystery of his childhood right now, because of course Dickens' parents were very, very poor. His dad wasn't good at budgeting, and so even when his dad was doing fairly well financially, he was living above his means. And so then Dickens ended up having to work in a blacking factory and things like that. So anyway, there's a lot of parallels with, like I said, with Dickens' life and then his novels, and how he hides his secrets of his own life in his books. And so that's what this book examines in detail, is his life, and it works backwards. It starts with his death, and then it goes back to his childhood and moves forward from there. Anyway, so far, like I said, I'm really enjoying this. Highly recommend it. So that's The Mystery of Charles Dickens by A.N. Wilson. And then the last book I'm reading, I've just started it. I was going to read Phineas Finn, the second book in the Palliser series by Anthony Trollope, and I might still read that. But then Steve Donahue announced just a couple of days ago that he was going to start his Consorting with Lonely Trollope's read-alongs again, which I'm so excited about. We haven't done one of those since, I think, March. And so the first book for that is He Knew He Was Right by Anthony Trollope. I apologize, there's a sticker covering this man's face. Awesome. But anyway, this is another one of Dickens' standalone novels. It's widely regarded as one of Trollope's masterpieces, displaying the full range of his mature art, by turns humorous, pathetic, tragic, and socially aware. This follows Louis Trevelyan. He seems the most fortunate of mid-Victorian gentlemen, young, rich, well-educated, handsome, and with a beautiful wife, but his life is ruined by ungrounded jealousy, and it goes on from there. I don't want to read too much of the back because it might spoil it. But anyway, so this is the current Trollope book I'm reading. I just barely started it. I was reading a copy of it on my Kindle when I was at my parents' house because I didn't have this copy with me. But anyway, this should be fun to read. I do enjoy me some Trollope, and I'm hoping I can also get to Phineas Finn as well in Victober. We shall see. But I always enjoy Steve's commentary on Trollope books and reading these with everybody else for the read-along. So that's my third and final Victober read at the moment, which is He Knew He Was Right by Anthony Trollope. Okay, so I have talked way longer than I thought I was going to. I hope you all are enjoying the first few days of October and that you are getting some good reading in and reading some fun things. And even if you're not participating in October, I hope you are having a good reading month so far in October. And if you are participating in October, let me know in the comments what you're reading. If you finished anything already. Did you cheat and start early like I did? So I already finished 2 books. Granted, one of them was a children's book, but anyway, let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks, BookTube.